Hey guys, Dov here, and today I'm back with a highlight video of a little bit of a different sort. So I've already covered a couple monsters. The Shaggoth called overrated, much to some people's dismay. And in general, I've been trying to think like which is the best monster in the game, well and truly. It's pretty tough comparison, but I think broadly speaking, and I would actually stand this position very firm, is that Lizardmen have the best monsters in general of any faction in the game. And here we've got a nice build up against Bretonnia, and you might say, oh, this matchup is super easy, when in fact it is not. This matchup has changed a lot, and it's actually very even now. On the day that we played this, Falcon and Hadriz were testing this matchup out quite a bit because Falcon had mentioned he'd been having some issues, and like actually with the Lizardmen out of any faction, Bretonnia was giving him the most issues, which is really interesting to me, given the general perception, especially of a lot of people who claim to be Bretonnian mains, is that they're terrible, but in fact they're super strong. The peasant arrows no longer poisoning your own knights is a huge change. Questing knights here, but anyway, let's go back to Lizardmen monsters. Bretonnia has best-in-class cavalry, Lizardmen has best-in-class monsters, and like I said, we've got one of each here. We've got a Carnosaur, we've got a Feral Carnosaur, Feral Stegodon, Bastiladon, Mazdamundi on his chair leading the way, two Skink Bros on foot, and some Temple Guards. Temple Guards, and the Arhuar Spears here, Legion of Chakwa for the missile resistance, and also, three Pterodons. To do some skirmishing. So for, I don't know why it keeps doing that. Anyway, for Bretonnia, 4 questing knights, which is absolutely meta in this matchup, and a lot of matchups probably right now. Albrecht, very good also in this matchup for the anti-large, the wave, and yeah, he hits pretty hard as well against other monsters, if you can get a good engagement. Men-at-Arms, Trebuchet to pull me in, and 1 unit of Royal Pegasus Knights to respond to various threats. And right off the bat, we're going to be getting the engagement going. Unfortunately, my solar engine hasn't really had line of fire because of the map here. I haven't been able to apply too much, but the solar engine also benefited massively. Probably one of the best, if not best-in-class monster artillery, which I know it makes me a little sad to say that because I love steam tanks. But the contact effect here is so strong, and we'll see that a little bit later on. Right now, the Stegodon countercharging in. High charge bonus on this guy, 76 charge. Relatively slow moving, but only 1,100 points makes this thing super cost-effective. It is an absolute meat bag for the cost. The Carnosaur also throwing out on the side here. You can see the Questing Knights have taken a decent amount of damage already, but Mazdamundi is under threat here. The Peasant Archer is trying to focus him down. We do pop Shield of the Old Ones here. I'm neglecting to use the Shield of Chocolates, unfortunately. Here comes Albrecht and the Pegasus Knights with their extra anti-large, and with my monsters a little bit out of position. This is going to be pretty bad. The Carnosaur can maybe come back here and get on Albrecht, but already Mazdamundi's taken a lot of damage here. Shield of Chakwa now being used there to try and mitigate some of the damage from the Peasant Archers. And yeah, Legion of Chakwa themselves kind of dropping their attack orders. Likewise, my Temple Guards a little bit out of position. Solar Engine's having a bit of a hard time firing right now, and Mazdamundi is, like I said, under severe threat. We do get the Carno in here to get a couple hits on Albrecht. He's going to have to pull away there. Go ahead and cast an Overcast Net there. Before Mazdamundi kicks the bucket, I wanted to try and get a good engagement on Albrecht. Unfortunately, he squeaks back up into the air. Pegasus Knights also looked like they got hit by that, but I don't think they actually did. Yeah, Ruination of Cities, a full miss as well. Still going all in one direction, but thankfully the Feral Stegodon's relatively healthy. I've been able to break up this flank, and the Questing Knights are taking significant damage throughout these engagements as well. The fact that my 3 monsters are all still in relatively good health. The Romulan Dog has understandably been focusing all of his attention on Mazdamundi, which is absolutely the right call. You want to get rid of the healer first, and he's the squishiest target anyway, plus, you know, leadership issues are now going to be a thing. But these Questing Knights here, and Romulan Dog sees what's coming, tries to avoid it. I'm able to get pretty good drop rocks there, though, quickly responding as a lot of these Questing Knights were kind of blobbed up there. And the Solar Engine also firing in. You can now see the contact effect coming in as the Carnosaur and the Stegodon fight it out here. as the solar engine fires in, the stats will be debuffed, and like spreading it on Albric, on the blob of Cav just there as well, was able to hit a multitude of units, but Albric goes down to what, 2611 with that blinded contact effect, so beyond the damage, which in and of itself is pretty decent. Ooh, good hit there. Having that blinded debuff is going to be super important in this late game, and keeping these other two monsters together. I do also have the two Skink Bros on foot, thankfully, that can continue to throw out Cold-Blooded to help mitigate the Enrage here, and also give some extra leadership. The Temple Guards, reasonably healthy, taking some shots from the Trebuchets continuously, I'm not the biggest fan of, so I'm going to go ahead and use some of these Pterodons, the Pawhawk Sentinels, out of ammo. They also have a bit more attack stats, given their Regiment of Renown, and some physical resistance. I'm going to dispatch them momentarily to go take out those Trebuchets, but you can see Albric's actually having a hard time finding a place to land here. I've still got plenty of Poison Javelins as well. And the Solar Engine's using up most of its ammo. Romulan Dog actually avoiding the engagement while I'm spending my ammo is the right thing to do, though. Again, with that blinded contact effect, the Questing Knights probably don't want to try and fight in melee too much. As it is right now, these Pterodons, I am going to also chase those Questing Knights off momentarily. Just kind of using the mobility of the Pterodons to go out to various targets, try and shut them down, but things are still looking potentially very dangerous. Albric here charges in to the Feral Carnosaur with the few remaining Royal Pegasus Knights, and you can see, even though there's only a handful of unit models right here, they do quite a bit of damage. Also looks like they got some kind of buff here, I guess just leadership, hold them in place. The Carnosaur is just about done too. It is not happy about the situation. Cold-Blooded keeps it fighting momentarily. Oh, and a nice hit there on Albric. He is just about at his healing cap, eating a regrowth there. And the caster also, Lore of Life Damsel here, getting pretty low. Trebuchet offline is great for me, though. That's going to help protect these few infantry units that remain. Temple Guard definitely took some serious losses there, but them being around to help support in this late game is pretty critical. And with the last few shots of the Solar Engine hitting Albric, he's not able to come in here. He did actually rout that Carnosaur just on the charge, but took some serious damage, not only from the Javelins, but the Solar Engine. These two Skink Bros also, don't discount the fact they've been shooting the whole time. They do poison missile damage, and they do a pretty decent amount of missile damage. It's not a ton, but given that they fire so rapidly and that they have so much ammo, they've been generating great value here, and especially against Albric in this very kind of pitched late game. You can see here, again, those Questing Knights, even still, me charging them and fighting them, with them having so few unit models, they're able to do a lot of damage to those Pterodon Riders. Albric, though, is on a timer at this point. I mean, I say that, I'm almost out of ammo. I've only got 2 shots left. Carnosaur, even though it's very damaged, is still fighting, and that's one thing. This thing, even though it's a feral unit, has pretty good leadership, even just baseline, and of course the stats are amazing for the cost. Only 1,600 points for something this fast, with 95 armor, massive anti-large armor-piercing weapon strength, great charge, just all-around great monster. It's almost like a Shagoth, pretty close to it for 1,600 points, and you can heal it, so it automatically better than a Shagoth. And all of these monsters here are just so cost-effective. This isn't even including the Dreadsaurian in the monster conversations, which it is the highest damage and most expensive monster in the game, so if your measure is, you know, by that, then yes, Lizardmen have the best monster in the game, but broadly speaking, taking all of them together, it's pretty clear. I don't know that anyone can really argue that anyone has better monsters than Lizardmen, and here, all 3 of them combining, very key to victory. Despite Mazdamundi getting sniped, he got a little bit of stuff done, but largely it was reliant on these monsters and their handlers. Let's not forget about the Skink Bros here. And the fact that you can take these guys on foot for 350 points and they have Cold-Blooded for free means that taking the feral monsters is really not nearly as risky as you might think. Given that you can take, you know, 3 Cold-Bloodeds pretty efficiently. Not only that, but these guys have also, of course, paid dividends to themselves. for themselves rather, just shooting everything. So yeah, very fun stuff, really close game, nice back and forth there with Romulan Dog. Definitely thought I was done after Mazda Mundi went down, but the monsters, all three getting chevrons there, 104, 77 for the Stegodon and the Carnosaur, and the Bastillodon Solar Engine 47 with an XP chevron. Of course, a lot of damage as well on Alberic himself. Fun stuff. I don't really know what else to say about Lizardmen monsters that I didn't already cover in the cast. I mean, it's kind of all there, right? And in terms of factions which have very strong monsters, usually healing plus monsters is the way to go, and the Lizardmen have sort of the best of that. High Elves are maybe second or third, tied with Vampire Counts, because Vampire Counts have so much healing. They also have, like, the Mortis Engine you could call a monster for sure, and having that Mortis effect is exceptionally strong. Terra Geese are pretty good. I don't see them as much as I used to, but they're certainly quite strong. Likewise, Bargulfs are a very, like, deceptively strong unit when you look at just the weapon strength stat, at least. And of course, you've got the Dragon. All of your Dragon Lords super powerful, and the fact you have so much passive healing means it's very easy to keep all of these online. But just in terms of their offensive output, their stats and everything, they really, in many cases, don't compare to Lizardmen monsters. And Lizardmen just have a greater variety of actual monsters. I mean, not having the Mortis Engine is a thing. But High Elves also, likewise, they have pretty good monster selection, but they're limited almost entirely to the air, unless you want to meme and bring a Treeman, which Treemen are not the best monsters to begin with, because they're really slow. Star Dragons are probably the best flying monster in the game, and in general, if you limit it to specifically flying monsters, then all of a sudden High Elves are the best, but as it is, like, Dragons just have less HP overall than the Lizardmen monsters, and I mean, yeah, you get some fire synergies from some various ones, but some of these are not super cost-effective. Like, Star Dragon's pretty good, but besides that, some of these others will not be cost-effective given the situation. Moon Dragons can be okay. Sun Dragons are generally too squishy to be super useful in multiplayer. Arcane Phoenixes I've seen do some things in very specific situations. Frostheart, basically, you win if your opponent tries to attack it too much. And the Flamespire is cheap enough that it's okay, but it is kind of squishy and low DPS in terms of weapon strength for what it actually, what you pay for it. So just in general, when I compare that to, say, Lizardmen monsters, every time, every monster I look at for Lizardmen, I like what I see. The Bastillodons, Feral, super cheap. This is probably the cheapest terror-causing unit in the game. Maybe. I'd have to double-check some other things. But you've also got these two other variants, or three variants, rather. Ark of Sotek, which I do think they buffed this. Maybe it's worth it to take against Horde faction. Still kind of a meme variant. Solar Engine's probably the strongest right now. The Rev Crystal might seem decent, and it can be in very long games with Apotheosis combined, but it honestly doesn't heal that much HP. You only have 7 uses of it, and it's got a relatively long cooldown as well. You won't really realistically get that many of these in a given fight, but you can combine it with Apotheosis to get a little bit more value from the model resurrection, and it's decent to have. Then, of course, you've got the Stegodons, which have super high charge, even higher armor, or less armor, rather, but way more HP, and just better offensive stats in general. Great weapon strength, and again, the charge, man, hurts from these guys like nothing else. Their melee attack and defense isn't amazing, but you've also got a long-range artillery variant. You've got sort of a... I don't know what you would call it, short-range machine gun blow dart variant. You've got the Engine of the Gods, which some people aren't the biggest fan of. I kind of like this thing. It's maybe not the most competitive pick, but the 5% damage resistance AoE is definitely something. 5% isn't a lot, but it is something. Improved power recharge rate is nice, and of course, the orbital bombardment burning alignment can be super, super strong. Also carries a Howdah, and then we go to the Carnosaur, which... you can really only take a feral variant or mount options on Lords, and keep in mind all these mentions, all these monsters I mentioned already, not only can you take them on a multitude of Lords, but you can also take them on Heroes as well, which is unique to the Lizardmen. Usually in other factions, like the best you're going to see from a hero is like a Manticore, maybe. Maybe. Most factions heroes don't have access to monstrous mounts, but Lizardmen, all of them do, basically, except Croak, but he's kind of a monster in and of himself. Yeah, you can take any of these guys on Stegodons, of course, the Scarvet you can take on a Carnosaur if you don't want to have one that enrages. You know, for only a little bit more, 300 points more, you get one that has no enrage, can benefit from stuff like Guardian, 6 more HP, and more leadership also. Carries its own cold-blooded, right? So there's a lot going on here in terms of monsters. The fact that you have not only Mazdamundi is a decent healer, but Greater Arcane Conduit, Slann, Mage Priest, Lore of Life gives you, you know, comparable healing to someone like Alariel even, if not more. And that's pretty strong with all of these great monsters. So, in summary, Lizardmen have best monsters in the game. End of story. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification every time I upload a new video. You'll be notified. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.